education team is not going to be giving a report today, but I wanted to tell you something, which, Jefferson County School Board is now suing the Trump administration for withholding funds for Title IX, I believe. And, there is a petition of support that, I know Allison, who is our team lead, is involved in that. And so we will be asking people to show support for the school board, because what the Trump administration is doing is just wrong. So please be looking for that. Yes.
Do you know, I was reading that email that we got from the school board, but because it's in, they're staying within state laws. Are the other school districts suing as well? Because I know that a lot of the financial things that we're missing out on in Colorado is because we're blue and we've not been good to Trump. And he's withheld money in other places as well. I was just curious if anybody knows what the other school districts are doing.
The question is, are other school districts or school boards in the state suing? I don't have an answer to that, but Taylor might, so let's get Taylor involved.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's my understanding that right now, no other school boards are suing. But the reason is because of an action by the Trump administration, which said that there were some 60 males participating in female athletics in Jefferson County. That's why Jefferson County was targeted. And the school board responded by saying, where did you get that number? Because the vast majority were people who were assistant coaches, people who help out with equipment and school mascots. So in terms of the total number of biological men who are participating in women's sports is either zero or very close to zero. So right now, Jefferson County is the tip of the spear.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, we are now ready for our action team reports. That was education, and we have climate. Darlon. He has some good news to share.
Thanks, Julie. So I'm Darlon Chang. I'm the climate action team lead, and I want to say that it was a long time coming to have a 7-0 vote on 7/7, July 7th. Climate Sustainability Action Plan, and I'm sure that many of you in this room contributed to this, whether you were giving a public comment or helping the city council members get elected. I think we helped get all 7 of the city council members elected, and that played a big part in us being able to get a unanimous 7-0 vote. And it really does make a big difference for something like this to have a 7-0 vote, because we have one staff member right now who's focused on climate and sustainability. And it's really important to his job security and to his ability to get prioritization and funding for climate and sustainability work, have a unanimous vote like this. Round of applause for everybody in this room. Getting us to this point. And if you haven't already, please help yourself to a cupcake. Julie did a great job picking great flavors from Goldmine Cupcakes. It's my daughter's favorite cupcake store, so I'll be sure to take one for her. This is just the start. We really hit a watershed moment, but there's many more things for us to do to get Arvada to be an exemplary city in taking climate and sustainability action. Because even though we might be in dark times right now, federal government cutting back science jobs, cutting back climate work, we can set a big example as a city and doing things that are necessary to move money that would have gone into fossil fuel infrastructure, into clean energy infrastructure, to move people and communities toward having clean energy as the default choice rather than as the unusual, atypical choice. And the next step is getting our city to join the regional partnerships like Colorado Communities for Climate Action. So one thing you can do to help is thank your city council members and let them know how much this meant to you. So that's it for me. Thanks.
It's so nice to have good news, isn't it? Healthcare, Carolyn, that's me. I am gonna be reading from a script because Kathy Blake cannot be here. She'd rather be at her grandson's birthday party. Well, we have good news and information is gonna be coming out soon about what's happening with healthcare. So, I'll just go ahead and read everything's gonna be closer, okay. Oh, now I can hear me. My hearing aids can hear me too. Okay, our team advocates for a publicly financed, privately delivered universal health care system in Colorado and nationwide. That'd be nice. Our goal is passing a ballot measure in 2028 to implement a Colorado single payer system. We are working on getting support from voters and legislators. The next APA Healthcare Action Team meeting will be on Saturday, August 15th at 4 p.m. on Zoom. Contact Kathy.m.Blake, BLAKE, @gmail.com for details. Kathy reached out to Representative Lisa Ferre to find a time to discuss healthcare ideas. Instead of a meeting, she asked for an email with healthcare ideas for her spreadsheet. Kathy emailed her information about the healthcare analysis and will follow up at her fundraiser on August 9th. Do you have some time or is it too hot to go outside? The fourth in the healthcare webinar series from the Universal Healthcare from Colorado Now will happen on Thursday, August 6th at 6 p.m. It will discuss how corporate health insurance corruption robs us of life and finances. This is all an Anschutz initiative right now. They took everything, all the information they're trying to do, cost modeling went up. You're welcome to attend these meetings. Catch up with me after the meeting and I can give you the direct email link so you can get yourself registered for that meeting because we're here to tell everyone about it. We'll discuss how corporate health insurance corruption robs us of life and finances. This virtual presentation will discuss how for-profit healthcare insurance is harming communities, weakening our economy, and preventing workers and families from having financial health security and whatnot. And they're all listed online. You can see everything there. Thank you, Carolyn. Immigration Partnership, Pat. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Pat Malone. I'm one of the team leads for the Immigrant Partnership Team. And last Saturday, we had our second ever in-person gathering. And it was brutally hot, like 97 degrees. But many of you, some of you showed up. And even though we didn't have a huge crowd, we had about 22 people. We had great interaction, learned a lot from other organizations and what they're doing, like WKUS, and from one of our city council representatives, Shauna, and about healthcare, et cetera. So lots of good ideas came from the group that we'll look at and hopefully start taking action on. We have a few other things that are in the works right now. One of them is trying to get city council to approve a proclamation that would designate an upcoming date to be recognized as Immigrant Appreciation Day. This was submitted by one of our members. I don't know if she wants to be known or not. Yes, no? Molly back there several months ago submitted it. And at this point, it hasn't been approved, but it's been an interesting and ongoing process. I'm learning a lot. I've talked to all but one of the city council reps this week to find out why it wasn't approved the first go round. And it's interesting to learn, 30 seconds, about how things do and don't work in our city. Also, our police department and the Colorado Rapid Response Network have never seen eye to eye about that pickup of someone on Everett Way back in March. You might recall that. Korn identified that this person was picked up here and put into the Geo Detention Center into in Aurora. So in our police department says, no, that didn't happen. It's a long story, but what I'm trying to do, we're trying to do, is to get these two groups together and try to understand Korn's process. APD needs to understand that so that they can have more confidence when they say, this is what happened. It's been a lot of months and none of them, they're not in agreement. APT thinks it never happened and Korn knows it happened. So if you want to be involved in any part, there are so many aspects to this work. So if you want to be involved in any part, but please let me know. Thank you.
Anti-war Bruce?
Hi, actually been some positive developments in the anti-war effort. Our representative Brittany Pedersen voted for, the Massey Amendment, which would have blocked, which would $1 billion visual of weapons. She also voted against the National Defense Authorization Act, which, had a provision in it to, meld US and Israeli militaries. It's also extremely wasteful spending. I'm not sure exactly why she voted against it, but she voted against it, so that's good. The anti-war team is in need of leadership. We have some people stepping up to do various things, but we need a new leader for anti-war. So if you're interested, let me know.
That means you're stepping down.
I'm trying to, yes.
Been there since we began.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you. I am Julie Callahan, Social Connections. What's coming up is August is gonna be Andor August. We're gonna have 2 coffees. The first coffee will be next Saturday. Probably, I can't ever remember the name of the place in Old Town. That's it. The Dolce Vita, that's where I'm hoping to have it. We will discuss season 1 of Andor. On Saturday, 8/22, we will discuss season 2 of Andor. And on September 11th, we will be meeting, hopefully at Darlan's place for a group movie. One show, and we will vote on which one to watch. On our book club is resuming Women in Politics. Module 1 will be on 8/12. I hope you guys can make it. Module 2 will be on 8/26. It's gonna be at my house, all things considered. Probably 6 to 7:30, and it will be module 2 and module 3, Women in Politics. If anybody wants to access that information, here is my cell phone number. I will put these on Facebook, but I'm not on Facebook. So if you have questions or concerns or comments, I will never see them. Okay, so if you wanna come or you have questions and you need the reading material, text me and I will get it to you.
Will it be in calls to action weekly?
Yes, it should be. Yes, and I try and put it on Facebook so people see it, but I'm not really there, so. And that will be the month of August for social. Mara? For our rallies and protest team.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mara Otley, team lead of rallies and protests. I have flyers in the back if anybody wants to pick up a flyer. On Sundays at 80th and Wadsworth, we have from 10 to noon or until it gets too hot. We have a rally every Sunday. Please join us. On Tuesdays, we have another one, 4 to 5:30. It is on the southeast corner of 52nd Avenue in Wadsworth. So that's in front of the In-N-Out Burger. So if you can't make Sundays, maybe you can make Tuesdays. And finally, we have 1 hour on Wednesdays, which is 4 to 5 at Kipling and 58th. If it's too hot for you to go outside, which I don't blame you, we have postcards every other week. So we did it today. The next one will be on 8/15 at the Lake Arbor Police Station, which is on Vance, behind the Safeway where we do the Sunday protests. Harriet can probably get you on, who's on Zoom, can probably get you on the text list if you want more information on that. And be on the lookout for another Ice Breaks Hearts. We did this visual rally back on February 13th. We're looking to do another because it seems like deaths at ICE concentration camps has unfortunately gone up recently, so we're looking to do that probably in Old Town at dusk, so it's a little cooler. We'll get you all the details as soon as we have them. Thank you. Have a great day. Thank you.
And that wraps up our team action reports. I'm now going
Hey,
to,
Julie,
yes,
I'd like to speak.
oh God, did I skip you? I'm sorry. I would like to introduce political action, Tyler. I apologize. Right up for you.
Hey, y'all, I'm Tyler Knappy, I'm the political action team lead, and I will try and keep it to 2 minutes. There is an election coming. So I'm gonna kind of start with what we, as the political action committee, are doing. So on August 20th, we will be having our general meeting. And we will actually include half of that with council members. So August 20th, 6:30 at the Mirror Image Arts. We'll have Randy Mormon and Mike Griffith. And then, and I sent out an email prior, but this is actually we ran into conflict with September. So that was originally scheduled for September 17th. I will send out an update when we do have that conflict resolved. And then I do have October 15th confirmed with Rebecca Levinson and Bob Pfeiffer. So if there are things you'd like to speak to council members about, this will be the best time to do that. And then moving on, September 12th, we'll be having our general meeting on ballot initiatives. There's gonna be a lot. Right now, there are 6 confirmed for the ballot. There are 15 collecting signatures and 7 being verified. That's 28 in total. So keep an eye out on that. We'll be including a lot of information on ballot initiatives. October 3rd will be our candidate forum. So we have invited anybody that touches our data in any form, even from local office, state to national. I have invited 42 candidates. We already have 11 confirmed. And then I want to talk about something that's close to heart for me, which is CD8. So CD8 is our next door neighbors. And so there's been a lot of work to attempt to overturn CD8. So currently that incumbent is Gabe Evans, and we have Randy Nelly, who is now running for office there. Last time that vote was lost by 2,450 votes. So there's a initiative going on right now for the Trust Brigade, which is attempting to do deep canvassing on this, and there are a variety of Saturdays available if you'd like to spend some time doing deep canvassing and perhaps trying to flip the district. And as was mentioned, Initiative 195, the last day for signature collection is the 3rd. Signature verification can be done up to this Sunday, and they're still looking for volunteers. And that's my 2 minutes.
Sorry.
No, it's not.
Thank you to all our team leads, and I'm sorry if I forgot anybody else. And that is it. Next, I'd like to introduce Pat, who will be introducing our speaker. Thank you.
Me again. So I am really very happy to introduce you to Ryan Burke. Ryan's a part-time chief technology officer for 2 different startups. Terea Life, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Terea Life and Recess Technologies. And there he authors technical strategy and mentors software engineering teams. He's an innovator in cyber solutions and was part of a software startup that was acquired by Amazon Web Services in 2015. While at Amazon, he shaped technical strategy for multiple year partnerships with Carrier, Volkswagen, and BlackBerry. Ryan's 2022 book, Intelligent Workloads at the Edge, teaches developers how to launch embedded AI solutions. In 2026, Ryan founded Coloradans for Digital Freedom, a data privacy advocacy group. In his spare time, Ryan designs tabletop games, under the brand Ansible. Is that how you say that? Ansible Games. So Ryan, I don't know where you are. Oh, there you are. Welcome, Ryan, please. Is that?
Are we gonna see the slides up on this wall screen as well? And then if we can get, in a moment, someone from Zoom just to confirm that the right, slide view is coming through.
It is.
Awesome, thank you so much. Hi, everybody, I'm Ryan Burke. I'm the founder of Coloradans for Digital Freedom. Today's topic is data privacy explained for real people. And so what I mean by that is you all. You know, we have people come to our workshops every month with CDF. And generally, I would say the audience there.
We need 1 second, technical
Okay.
difficulty.
One technical difficulty to resolve.
Go ahead and exit out. So we're not seeing the full screen sharing,
Okay,
so we'll give it a try again here.
yeah, I'll keep explaining
Cool.
the title there. So we have generally more technical people coming to our workshops and talk about all manner of things.
Probably.
So I wanted to take a really introductory level, plain language view of digital privacy, data privacy, online privacy,
Okay.
or APA. And anybody who's listening in on Zoom. So this is my first attempt to really boil everything down to as plain language as I could come up with. Can we go to the next slide? So I want to start today's talk with a story. This is a story about a real person, Angela Lips, a grandmother in Tennessee. And I think it would be helpful to really put yourself in her shoes as I'm telling the story. I think it'll help resonate what some of the messages are. But yeah, Angela Lips, grandmother in Tennessee. Last year, she was arrested at gunpoint by US Marshals in her home while she was babysitting several children. She was charged with bank fraud in North Dakota, a state that she's never been to. And she spent 4 months in a Tennessee jail without bail because she was considered a fugitive from the law since it was a crime committed across state lines. After 4 months in jail, she was extradited eventually to police and law enforcement in North Dakota that had issued the charges, where she spent an additional 2 more months in jail before finally she was released on Christmas Eve in North Dakota winter with no coat, no apology, and no assistance getting home. Thankfully, her legal counsel and a local nonprofit were able to put her up for a few days at a hotel there and raise some money to send her home. But while she was in jail for those 6 months, she lost her home, she lost her car, and she lost her dog. So what happened to Angela Lips? North Dakota Police Department were running down a fake ID and a bank fraud case where someone was seen on camera in North Dakota using a fake military ID to withdraw tens of thousands of dollars from a bank there. The police department used an AI facial recognition technology to flag Angela as a suspect. And the Fargo detectives at the police department used her social media accounts to verify the hit from the AI facial recognition technology. They also used an image from her Tennessee driver's license on record to confirm, again, what the AI facial recognition technology proposed as a suspect for this crime. There was no verification of the live footage captured from CCTV of the person who was in the bank. So everything was determined via the driver's license fake ID that was used to commit the crime, and not any of the CCTV television, you know, the person that was actually there on scene. And what happened to Angela is that eventually her public defender was able to use bank records to prove that she was in Tennessee at the time that the crime was committed, and so they dropped the charges. So how does this relate to data privacy? Well, for one, you know, AI facial recognition is trained on all of our data that's being consumed out in social media. And any photos that we upload online are at risk of being used to train this technology. But also the fact that she had pictures on social media were used to help cross-reference an incorrect charge. But I'm not here to say like don't use Facebook or don't upload photos, but I think we're now in a point with technology where we need to be much more thoughtful about how we use technology, what information that we share online, because incidents like this can happen. So Angela is back in Tennessee. She is suing the pants off of law enforcement, I think in both Tennessee and North Dakota, for this gross miscarriage of justice. And I'm optimistic that this will be a textbook case that will hopefully drive new regulation for law enforcement as it relates to AI technology. Can we go next slide? So why listen to me about data privacy? I spent 20 years in the software industry, mostly software development and managing teams of software developers. I've been in the military, I've been working in telecom, cloud technologies, games, smart devices, and then sustainability was the last thing that I was in, environmental sustainability. And then I've been reclaiming my own online privacy since 2018. The first couple steps I was taking were things like just getting out of the most egregious social media services that I was in, things like Facebook and Twitter. I felt were consuming the most amount of my information and were the biggest risks to my online privacy. And I've been making a lot of progress in the last year personally to just dial back the apps and services, the tech tools and technologies to try and reclaim as much as I can. And I realized at the beginning of this year that the journey that I had been on might be of use to others in my community. So I started documenting and sharing what I know and sharing what I've learned through this organization, Coloradans for Digital Freedom. So we have a workshop every month that happens in one of the libraries across Boulder and Denver. And so I have a little short lightning talk on some new topic every month, and then we have open Q&A, and people can bring in their devices and learn about alternative software and tools and technologies that can help them reclaim some of their digital privacy. And overall, I'm trying to raise the level of digital literacy so that we can make more informed choices when it comes to technology. Next slide.
Those are the first Sundays, I think, right?
Yeah, first Sunday of every month, and there's a slide in the back that's got our contact information on there. So today's agenda, we'll do a quick privacy primer. There's going to be a lot of P's in this talk, so apologize on the microphone for that. But I think it helps to ground concepts of privacy that we are used to in everyday decision making in real life before we relate concepts of privacy into the digital world. I'll share 3 easy actions that anybody can take to start reclaiming their online data privacy. I'll share some thoughts and some notes about where you can go from here. If you take any of those actions, what do you do next? And then we'll have a Q&A, and I've brought a couple people from the community, the Coloradans for Digital Freedom community. So I'll be taking questions up here, but if there's like a longer answer, I might give the short version, and then I'll have someone from CDF kind of raise their hand, and if you want, you can go have a longer conversation with someone from the CDF community about that topic. And we'll be here also following the close of the topic in the APA meeting. Next slide. So let's start with what is privacy. So I'm going to actually turn this over to the audience and look for some cues. What does privacy mean to you? Just very generally. Anybody want to give an answer?
Not being seen when you don't want to.
Not being seen when you don't want to. Yep. How about examples of privacy in your day-to-day life?
And going to the restroom.
Going to the restroom. How about a public restroom? Door, yep. Expectation of privacy, yes. So these are the key concepts, right? Which is it is your expression, your choice about what information about you are choosing to share with others and when. So let's go to the next slide. So it is the autonomy, your decision to selectively express yourself, just at a very basic level definition of privacy. Next slide. So here are some real world examples of privacy, in day-to-day life. Just drawing the curtains, closing what and who can see you through the window of your own home. closing a door to have some privacy, putting a letter in the mail, right? What do we put our mail in? We put it in envelopes and we seal the envelope and that's what gets sent through the post. And then a public restroom, right? We've got doors, you know, on all of the stalls, right? So these are just some examples of everyday privacy. We don't even really think about these things anymore. And that's sort of the point that I want to drive home throughout this talk is that we've learned the lessons of how privacy applies in our day-to-day life, but we don't really learn through school or even through the use of our technology and tools how privacy applies in the digital world. So let's go next slide. So there's an important distinction between privacy and security. These are not interchangeable terms, although they are often closely related. Privacy means, like we said, it's that autonomy, it's your choice, it's an assertion of what you want, right? I want to be private in my home, I want to be private, you know, in the bathroom, I want to be private when I'm having a conversation, you know, on the phone. And security is the mechanism that enforces that privacy, right? So if we take the example of a door, right? Very basic concept. Closing the door is your assertion that you would like privacy. I'm on one side of the door, you are on the other side of the door. I am asserting that I would like to be private now. But the door itself is not a security mechanism, doesn't enforce your security. So what part of the door enforces security? It's the lock. Yeah, so the door actually has two parts. A big thing that you can't see through, and then a lock that means no one else can open it, right? To violate your privacy. So let's go to the next slide. So here's a Venn diagram. I love Venn diagrams. So on the left hand, we see a bubble representing privacy. On the right side, we see a bubble representing security. And in the middle is our overlap, our union of privacy and security. So taking a couple more examples, right, going back to the mail and the post. When you put a letter inside an envelope and you seal it, that is your assertion of your desire to be private, right? The contents of that letter are supposed to be known to you and are supposed to be known only to the person who receives the letter. But by itself, an envelope does nothing to secure your assertion of privacy. Anybody who's holding the envelope can open it up and take a look at the letter and read the contents and put it back in. Whether or not it makes it to its recipient is out of your hands. Versus the secure example of a locked car, right? A locked car, again, you press the button or you use the key to lock the doors. All of the contents of that car are secure. Window could be broken, but you're relying on that level of trust that everything inside the car has been secured. But car has windshield and many windows, so the contents of the car are not necessarily private because anybody can walk up and look inside the car, right? So our real world example of something that is both private and secure is a safe deposit box, right? If you rent a safe deposit box with a bank, you have a box that no one can see through. You have a key to the safe deposit box. You put something in the box, you lock it, you leave it in the vault, and now nobody, even the bank, the service provider of the safe deposit box, cannot see inside of it. And you have a guarantee that it is locked, so it is both private and secure. So now that we've established some of the real world and analog concepts, let's move on to the next slide.
Now try navigate.
There we go. So relating to digital privacy. So I think there's an important understanding to come across, which is that digital data is often more secure than it is private. And there's a reason for that, right? Because companies are generally the entities that are vending or offering tools and technologies and services to us as consumers and customers. And it is really in their best interests to make sure that those things are secure. Because if you're using insecure technology and you have a data breach, your customers are gonna lose trust with you, you're gonna get sued. And so job number one at a lot of technology and software companies is security. We always said that at Amazon, that security was job number one. But when it comes to privacy, there's not as much of a need to highlight privacy in a software or a tool or a technology. It's usually thought of not even second, third, or fourth, but maybe 10th in a list of priorities when designing software. And there's a reason for that, which is these are all businesses trying to make money. And so one of the ways in which a company can make additional revenue is by taking advantage of the information, the data that we are inserting into that tool or technology. So good example would be email, right? Your email service provider, like Gmail, there may not be human beings who are reading the contents of your email. That's against their terms of use. But what happens when the metadata of your email, when you sent it, who you sent it to, where it was sent from, what time was it sent? How often are you emailing that person, or is person A emailing person B? That's all information that a company like Google considers, well, their information. Even though it's information that you generated, they are able to use that information to study it and make insights about it, analyze it, and they can also sell that information. And so a lot of the big internet companies have figured out this thing called surveillance capitalism, which is a mechanism that they have to aggregate all of this information about us, anything that they can get their hands on that's not against their own terms of service. And they're packaging it up, they're selling it to each other, they're selling it to data brokers. Data brokers are selling it to other companies. And most recently, we're also seeing federal law enforcement agencies being able to work around some of our constitutional amendments by just buying information from the company. And that's enabling them to get additional information about us, which they wouldn't normally be able to get without a warrant. So surveillance capitalism absolutely thrives on your data. So a lot of these big internet service providers and software companies, data privacy way down the list in terms of their priorities. So let's go next slide. So same Venn diagram, the relationship between privacy and security. Everything on the left, your email, your location, where you're going and when, your documents, your photos, your bank account number, your social security number. We all have an expectation that this information is ours, that it's private. And the only time anyone else should have access to it is when we make a choice to share that information. And on the right-hand side, we can see, I just pulled a sample of some of these large internet companies that I wanted to illustrate. They have, like I said, a number one priority to make sure that their software for their customers, that you're having a secure experience for all the reasons that we mentioned. Now, I'm not making an assertion with this Venn diagram that none of these companies or their products are private, but I'm saying that their job number one is security, and privacy is much lower on their priorities. And where we want to be as privacy advocates is we want to choose tools and technologies and service providers that are there in the middle of the diagram. Tools and solutions that are both private and secure at job number one. So let's go next slide. So your data is constantly being collected, it's being aggregated, it's being sold, it's being used, and you don't have a lot of options about that. If you've already started using a service, you've either checked a box or there was some text on the page when you signed up that said, these are the terms of our privacy policy. And we, as the company offering this service, can change the terms of our privacy policy at any time. Digital privacy is, as I was saying before, it's taking the same mentality about day-to-day decision-making, where in the real world, the privacy choices that we're making, that we're so used to them, they're so everyday that we just make them subconsciously now. And so what we do in CDF is we're trying to raise that awareness, we're trying to raise the literacy of the digital realm, so that privacy decision-making can become, again, subconscious and second nature in the tools and technologies that we're using. So again, it's about making those informed choices about who gets access to your data. Next slide. So you may have heard this expression before that if you're not paying for something, you are the product. There is a reason why services like Facebook and Gmail and these kinds of things are free. It's because they're making money off of your use of the service. they're actually making more money off of your use of the service than you would give them anyway. You know, a lot of internet technologies and services charge $5, $10, $15 a month. Frankly, if they can have someone start using their service and use it for 5, 10, 15 years, they're gonna make more money off of that, just from the data that is being generated from your use. So any major service provider that has a privacy policy, you're probably not gonna read it. I don't recommend reading it, it's very boring. But they rely on that as a mechanism, as a shield, right? The more language they can put in there, gives them more and more authority and control to do what they need to with your data. And even if they have a good privacy policy one day, they might just change it the next, and you might, if you're lucky, get an email or something that says, hey, we changed our privacy policy. If you keep using the service, we are taking that as consent to, you know, use this new privacy policy with you. And that's a way that a lot of these companies are using, you know, business language and documents to game the system, right? So they might offer some controls for you to express some of that autonomy. If you go into the settings of Facebook, you can uncheck a lot of things that you've probably never seen before. But you know, the next day they might roll out a new feature, and that box will be checked to share your information with, you know, advertising affiliates or something like that, right? And as soon as your data is shared once, it's really hard to get it out of the system again. So my recommendation is that we start choosing companies and products and tools that don't have a privacy mission that is front and center to like the core of their business, right? And there are companies out there that have this privacy mission. They're just as secure as the other companies that were on the previous slide. So let's take a look at some of those, and I'll show you how to use this stuff. Next slide. So we're now into 3 easy actions, right? So easy action number 1 is using a software product called Signal. So Signal is very similar to sending text messages. If you're an iPhone user, it's similar to iMessage. You may use WhatsApp or Telegram. So same domain of sending one-to-one or group messages. And the reason why one would choose Signal over some of these other options is that the messages, you know, in the example of the sending a letter in the mail, anyone who's holding that letter in between point A and point B could, in theory, open it and read the contents of that letter. But with Signal, the messages are encrypted, and they're encrypted in a way that mathematically only you as the sender and whoever you sent the message to can open and read the contents of that message. So all of the digital letter carriers, you know, the networking infrastructure that carries the message from point A to point B, none of those can read the message. And even on the Signal servers, right? Let's say I'm sending a message to a friend of mine and they're currently offline, maybe their phone is off or they're, you know, out of network coverage. The message can't be delivered to them when I send it. So the message got to sit on the server so that when the next time they come online, the message can be delivered. And even when it's sitting on the server that Signal runs, again, it's been encrypted end to end. There's no way even for Signal to view the contents of those messages. And lastly, why wouldn't you use this service? Because it's free. So I wanted to comment on the saying from the previous slide about, you know, you being the product. There are many free services out there in the privacy world that are free, but again, because they are based on nonprofit foundations, they're getting grants, they're seeking other ways of funding. A lot of them do have ways for customers to pay money for maybe expanded features, but the core functionality is still free for all of their customers. They have found ways to monetize without having to sell your information. So all 3 of these easy actions are going to be free services. And I think that that's an important part of the story for starting to take your first steps into privacy-minded software. Let's go to the next slide. So here are some just examples of the branding. So as you're looking for Signal, if you're trying to start using it for the first time, the website is signal.org. Their branding is sort of either a blue background with a white bubble or a white bubble or a blue bubble on a white background, just so it's very clear who Signal is and what it looks like when you're looking for it. That is a picture of their website with a couple screenshots of the product. So you can see it even does like group video chat, things like FaceTime, that do that. You've got one-to-one messaging with, emojis and reactions and read receipts, and you can send little voice memos. You can send pictures over Signal. And I point all of these things out just to highlight the fact that there is very little distinction in the features of Signal compared to the messaging apps that you're using today. And again, it's free, it's just as secure as the other offerings, and they have a privacy mission. You can rely on the fact that they are not going to sell your information to try and make money off of it. Next slide. Actually, let's go back a slide. So Signal is something that we've been using in my family to just be the new like group messaging service. We used to just send text to each other or use something like Slack, Facebook, but now we're using Signal, and it's been pretty easy to adopt that. We're using Signal and some of the surveillance and like the CDF, my community. We're using that to exchange messages and share news and things like that. So it's very easy to adopt. And I think there's an important. Do we have a question?
Both sides have to have Signal.
Yes. So both users in Signal have to be on Signal, and you have to like friend each other. But one of the things that it's based on is like a contact list in a phone. So like if you start using Signal and you're okay with tapping into the contacts list, it'll look and see, oh, you've got 5 out of 100 people are already using Signal, and so now you're friends with them, or you can reach out to them easily on Signal. So it's pretty easy to get started, and the same is true for this tool, and all 3 of the tools is you don't have to make like a big move all at once, right? It's pretty easy to just like start incrementally using these things. But it does use phone numbers and usernames to find each other in the Signal network. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so next easy action. So that's messaging. The second one is your internet browser, right? So most people are using things like Chrome or Safari or Edge. A lot of these are like installed on the devices when you buy them. And there's a reason why I don't recommend any of these browsers, is because browsers are not supposed to be watching you. They're not supposed to be snitching on what you're doing and sending telemetry out to the companies that built these browsers. That's not what a browser is supposed to do. A browser is supposed to go to the web page that you requested and load the web page. And that's it. That's not what it's supposed to do. There's lots of things that browsers can do for you, and you can turn those features on with things like plugins and configuring the settings and all that kind of thing, changing how it looks. But the one thing that, in my opinion, browsers aren't supposed to do when you install them is watch you and monitor you and send everything that they can possibly collect about you back to these companies like Google and Microsoft and Apple. And so Firefox is the name of a browser from a company called Mozilla. We can go to the next slide. This is also a free internet browser. This is what some of Firefox's branding looks like. So they've got the cute orange fox logo. You can either go to firefox.com or mozilla.org to get started. This is a screenshot of Firefox running on my laptop at EFF's website. It looks like a browser, it acts like a browser, except it doesn't do the one thing that the other browsers are doing, which is, watching you all the time. And it's very configurable. If you have like plugins that you really love in, Google Chrome or something, most plugin developers also ship support for Firefox. And I'll give an extra shout out to one of these that's running in my browser called Privacy Badger. Privacy Badger is another plugin, and it comes from the Mozilla Foundation. It is additional protection for your privacy. It tries to monitor for data and URLs that are being loaded on the pages that are trying to collect information about you, and that will like shut those down. All right, let's move on to the third one. Yeah, third easy action. This one actually takes a little bit more time to explain. But the company is called Proton. Proton is a company that was built on a privacy mission by scientists at CERN. So if you've heard of CERN before, it was likely in context of the Large Hadron Collider. So this is a research foundation that got started in I think the 1930s by Niels Bohr. It's the same foundation or the same, mission that got started way back then. They decided, hey, email is not private enough. We need to have an email service that works for the level of privacy that we need. So they built one, and it's called Proton Mail. And since launching Proton Mail, I think sometime in the 2010s, they've also added a lot of additional functionality into the Proton suite of services. So now Proton looks kind of a lot like Google does. So they don't have a search engine, but when you think about Google's like Gmail, Google Docs, the online document editor, spreadsheet editor, you can build PowerPoint presentations, you can store files in a cloud drive. They even have their own version of an AI chatbot that has privacy baked in from day one into all of these products and services. And once again, this is a free service. It's as free as Google is. You get all of these services. There's also VPN is another service, and that's a topic for another day. Come to a CDF meeting. But yeah, all of these things are free. It's very easy to get started. Yeah, check out some of these services. Let's go to the next slide. Look at some of the branding here. So they're more like kind of white and purple as their branding, but you can get started at proton.me. The thing that comes up in the browser should look a lot like this screenshot in the upper left. And here is a screenshot of Proton Mail running in a browser. You can run it in a browser. You can download a client to connect to email, but I mean, looks very familiar, right? I've got my folders on the left. I can start a new message. Here's my inbox with a preview of messages. I can search for things. The body of the email will show up here, and then the links to the other services, are on the right-hand side. It should feel right at home getting started in Proton. And again, I want to just drive home. Go to the next slide. I want to drive home that all of these things are easy to start using. You don't have to just stop using other stuff and then move into it. You can use it side by side, get more familiar with it. And over time, like when I change browsers, which I do often, I'll first migrate all of my bookmarks, so I have those easy and accessible. And then as I close out a tab in the old browser, the next time I go to that site, I'll open it in the new browser. And I'll do that slowly until I have eventually closed the last tab on the last browser, and now I'm on the new browser. You don't have to like wholesale change out a lot of these things. So those are the three easy actions. They're all free. They all come from privacy-minded foundations. And now I want to talk about where might you go from here. So data privacy is definitely a journey. It's not something that you do once in an afternoon. You fix everything on your phone or your laptop, and then you're good to go for life. Just like we have spent 10, 20, 30 years getting to know and use services on the internet, it can take a long time. I've been working, like I said, since 2018, I've been working on this, and I'm still working on it. Exiting these ecosystems and these products and services that I've been using all my life. And so there are guides out on the internet. There are two that I like a lot called the Opt-out Project, which was put together by a professor at Princeton University. And then there's another website called Privacy Guides, and their whole thing, I mean, they do news coverage, what's going on in legislation and, what are new products and services that are coming out. But the thing that I recommend most about Privacy Guides is they just have a wiki page, and every tool in technology, like, mail, VPN, browsers, AI chatbots, right? You just click on one of those, and then they did all the research, and they have their recommendations from top to bottom of privacy-minded mission for those products and services. For Opt-out Project and Privacy Guides, I've got QR codes on flyers on the back table. There's also a bunch of other materials about how to use Signal. There are things about the Electronic Frontier Foundation, EFF, and we've also got like links to our Coloradans for Digital Freedom workshops in our newsletter. And I've also put out a flyer for the Stanley Lake Library, because all of the libraries in Boulder and Jefferson County and Denver, the library staff offers free tech support, right? So they have their own schedule of events. But they have just free workshops where people can come in and say, hey, I'm trying to use this new thing, Signal. Can you help me, understand this better? And they're happy to provide any help about those topics that they have. And then again, we have CDF, we have our own workshops. Our next one is tomorrow in Denver at the Hadley Branch Library. But we're hosting a workshop in the area every first Sunday. Next slide. Okay, so we're at the Q&A portion. I just want to remind everyone that the library does close at 5 p.m. So we're gonna have to get the room broken down, maybe around 4:30 or so. Is that right? Yep. But yeah, I can take questions at this point. Like I said, if there's like a longer answer, I might give a short answer. And then actually everyone who's been to a CDF meeting can raise your hand. Yep. So these are people that you can look to for additional help. Most of them are in the back. But yeah, let's take some questions.
I have two questions for you. One is, why didn't you highlight DuckDuckGo here?
Yeah, so question was, why didn't I highlight DuckDuckGo? DuckDuckGo is both well, they're kind of growing. So they have multiple services, but DuckDuckGo primarily is a search engine similar to Google.com. They use I think the same search engine, or like a hybrid search engine, so you might get similar results if you were using Bing or Google. But their main thing is that they don't store and keep and expose your information about who you are as it relates to that search engine. The reason I didn't pick it for this talk is there's a nice roundness of 3 topics, and search engines didn't make the cut in terms of what I wanted to include in the talk, but excellent recommendation, and I would recommend DuckDuckGo as well.
The other question is, some of us donate to political campaigns, and sometimes we hesitate to go on ActBlue, because we get bombarded with dozens of requests. And I don't know if it's ActBlue that's reselling our information, or if it's a campaign that shares it with everybody else. But what is it possible to do some kind of class action suit against people that are sharing this information? Because it is freaking annoying. I'm doing this constantly.
So the question is, what can we do about political donations? When we give a donation or subscribe to a newsletter, then we get inundated with texts and emails. I'm Kamala Harris, please donate to my campaign for president. Like we get them for the rest of the season and then every month, for the rest of the time. So a short answer of what we can do about it. There's a technique called email aliasing or email masking. And so in brief, and maybe others can talk about it, after the Q&A, it's the idea that you don't just have one email address and you use that email address everywhere, because as your information is sold to other advertisers and other affiliates, it's very easy to latch onto you and hammer all of those emails. And if it's a phone number, you're a little bit worse off, because we don't have anything called phone number aliasing. But the idea is that you have multiple email addresses, and some of these services like Proton or Fastmail is the one that I use, allow you to set up additional identities of email addresses that you can use when you sign up on things, and you'll still get the email, but it's not using your email address, if that makes sense. And so what you can do with that is you can use a unique email alias every time you sign up for something. And if that address ever gets sold and you start seeing other stuff coming in on that address, you just shut it off, right? And then because it's not your actual email address, it is easy to just shut it off and say that one was compromised. So either use an email provider that supports email aliasing or masks. It's usually a free feature if you're a customer of that service. The brute force way is to just create actual multiple email inboxes and use them for clustering, I'm going to use this email for all of the political action. I'm going to use this email for all the online shopping. I'm going to use this email for, another, cluster of different things that you might do online. Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
Two questions. At the end of your name portion of the email address, you add a plus sign and then say the word act blue, for instance, or something like that. That becomes a unique address in their database. Then you could filter for, even if you can't support aliasing, it is describing, and it tends to be supported by most providers. So just plus act blue at the end of your name. The other thing I was gonna say is, there's no reason they have to have a real phone number very often, it's optional, I'll say so. But if they don't need to verify you for some reason or confirm something with you, don't give them a real phone number. You don't have to. Actually, one other thing that is you asked about class action suit, not an option, because if you read the terms of service for actually visible, a lot of these services that these on that basis. They very clearly lay all this stuff out and we've already signed it away. So privacy policy is a portion.
And for those on Zoom, do you want to do a quick summary?
Yeah, good point. I'll start walking around with the microphone too. So the addition was, you have an email account. If it doesn't support email masking or aliasing, the vast majority of email providers will support something called the plus trick, where if you take your email address, say my email address is, ryanburke@gmail.com. It's not. I could give my email address to a sign up form or someone else, like Ryan Burke plus actblue@gmail.com. And any email sent to that address still comes to me. So basically every email address possible where it's my email address plus, and then any word or number that you want, all of those should get delivered to your inbox. Definitely works on Gmail and, like we said, most email providers.
Well, I was gonna list a caveat too with respect to political contributions. So there is a federal elections law that basically states that when you contribute money to a candidate, you have to state who you are, who you're employed by. I can't remember all the other things, but this is, in theory, supposed to prevent rich people from having undue influence. So I can actually go online and look up and see how much money all the different people have contributed to each individual candidate. That information is public information by law. So, the way you get around it is by having a PAC or something that is able to evade that. But to a certain extent, we are a part of a community, and when you participate in that community, in some cases, you are voluntarily agreeing to make that information public. So that's the caveat.
Next question.
I am Julie. Is there any way to get your phone number removed from all these people sending me stuff?
So yes and no. There are services, well, let me start at the beginning. Most internet companies and service providers allow you to delete your account, right? So if you sign up with an account, if your phone number was one of the bits of information that you provided them, when you delete your account, they are supposed to delete that. But unless someone is going in and checking, they might not, right? There are some of the bigger internet service companies, Google and Facebook and all these, will have their own interface for, tell me what information you have about me. I'd like to download it and review it, please. And then they also have a button or a form that you can submit. That is, even if you don't have an account, I would like you to destroy all of the information that you have about me. Not every internet company or software company supports that. Regulation is developing in this space, at least in the US. California is way out in front. But we are seeing more states have more and more regulation to sort of have like consumer privacy protection laws. We have one in Colorado as well. And then third, if going to all of the different service providers is way too much work, because it is, there are some companies that offer like data destroying services. So you can go to a service and say, hey, here's my name and my email and my address. Can you please talk to all the data brokers and all the service companies and fill out their forms and act, on my behalf? And there are varying degrees of success to that, because even if all of the well-behaved companies and data brokers respect and destroy your data. There are a lot out there who are buying that information and then just selling it again, who don't respect or comply with any like regulation in their country that they operate in. So it's a mixed bag. The answer is yes, but generally, once information is out there, it's probably going to stay out there.
Do we want to actually do an experiment right now to show people why that's the case? Because we could use "Have I been pwned before" to have it been pwned by from.
Tyler.
Yeah, I've got a technical question. Just a second here.
Yeah, it might be hard to just like set up on the fly.
I could happily show you what my data looks like.
Yeah, if you want to change the screen out and set that up, I think that'd be a great presentation.
Do you want to walk them through what we're doing?
Yeah, so every time there's a data breach,
And I'll take it.
if your information was part of it, there are sites out there that are like monitoring the data breaches and seeing what happened. And if your information is found in it, you can see that, right? And then you can subscribe and get notifications as new data breaches are disclosed by these internet service companies. So here's one called "Have I Been Pwned" with a P. And you can just plug in your email address and you can see which data breaches your email address has been privy to. So it's a really fun, like kind of slot machine to plug in an email address and see what comes out. So Tyler's gonna plug in his Gmail address and hey, look at that. And the time that address has been around, it's been part of 21 different data breaches. And so you can learn more about what these are. I think if you scroll down the page a little bit, but there's also this button here that says, hey, I would like this service provider, "Have I Been Pwned," which is run by an internet security team of experts. And the next time that Tyler's email address appears in a data breach, hey, at least he'll get notified about it. All of the service providers that are experiencing the data breach are supposed to notify you. I think they are legally obligated to notify you, but it doesn't always work out, to that degree. This is a better way, right? Because their mission at "Have I Been Pwned" is to document these incidents and notify people of them. You're much more likely to get notified quickly if you sign up with something like this.
Since there's a question on Zoom.
Yeah, we have a Zoom question.
There's a comment, so I'll go ahead and take it. So there was a comment on Zoom about email aliasing and using the plus sign. So some services have gotten smart about this and won't allow you to use it. It is a valid character. It is part of the RFC for how email addresses can be written, but they won't allow you to use the plus email address because they want your real email address.
Yes, privacy and security are both a cat and mouse game on the internet.
On that same topic, like I've got Proton for my mail server and I can use the aliases, but you cannot send something from your alias. And then you log into these, you sign up at a website, you use the alias, they send you an email. Then you confirm it from your own email address. Now they've got your email address. Is that how that works? And then the other thing is, when you send emails to your buddies at Google, they're collecting your data, right? But now, how many have come from Proton?
Yep, exactly right. So depending on the email service provider, as they implement masking or aliasing, some will let you reply back through that mask or that alias. Others will just say, this is really just for receiving email. We don't support, actually sending it as the alias. So depending on the level of your privacy goals, you might choose a different provider, or you might set up a separate inbox, right? If you need to also send mail from that address. And then excellent point about sort of blurring the lines of, as one person takes a step towards, reclaiming their online privacy, continuing to interact with services that don't have a privacy mission, right? And the example was, let's say I exchange email with another Gmail user. Yes, your anything about that email, right? When was it sent? Who was it by? The contents of it are back in Google's world again, right? So there is certainly a network effect to a lot of these things. There's a lot of new social media services that have come up to try and, offer alternatives to things like Facebook and MySpace and all this kind of thing. But until more and more people are starting to use the other services, we don't get a lot of traction in them, and they're slow to grow. So I'm hoping and I'm optimistic that over the past couple of years, and certainly for the rest of this administration, people are going to start making more and more informed choices about what they're using and bring people with them, right? Bring people into those new services. Like I said with my family, right? I was an early adopter of Signal in my family, and I convinced them to start using Signal so that we don't have to worry about so much the privacy implications of what we're talking about.
I was aware of Electronic Frontier Freedom Foundation years ago. But you mentioned them, that what's your organization's relationship to them? Are you a chapter or do you have the same mission?
Yeah, thanks for that. So when I was looking to start CDF late last year, I was looking at organizations to align our principles to, and EFF was the one that I wanted to go with. And so at the time, when I was doing this research, they had a grassroots organization aligned to EFF called EFA. I think it was like Electronic Frontier Alliance, and many chapters, kind of sprung up there. By the time I actually got around to starting CDF and hosting the first workshop, I went back to sign up and register us as a chapter, but they had closed that grassroots campaign down. So what I do now is like on the CDF newsletter and the website that hosts the newsletter, I say things like, we are aligned to the principles of the Electronic Frontier Foundation. And then I've been in touch with the person who was running that EFA, that alliance, that grassroots campaign. And he said, give us a little bit more time. We're working on something new, and that'll probably be what we formally adopt as our mission statement.
And Brian, do you want to give a quick blurb on what EFF is?
Yeah, so EFF stands for Electronic Frontier Foundation. They are a nonprofit looking at all the legislation that's coming through, advocating for our privacy and online rights. They do a lot of lobbying. They do a lot of public presentations. A lot of their senior staff are repeat authors, on topics of data privacy and surveillance and anonymity online. So I find them to be a wonderful organization so that I can stay in touch and dialed in and current on what's going on in this space. Do you want to add anything?
No, I think that's great.
Okay. And then
So I'm gonna do a little bit as he did in the front there. Those of us that have gone to the ballot more than once in Colorado, it is a very public process and we wanna be public. And, quite frankly, I feel like we really got our butts kicked in healthcare because we weren't electronic enough. And in fracking, it did go to the ballot and lost by 2 or 3 points. But that was a very small margin compared to what our healthcare lost by. We lost by a huge margin when we did go to the ballot. But they did a lot of video blogging and were very regularly updating all the donors and with the video saying this is what's going on. The oil and gas people are following us, and they followed us the coffee shop. They're listening to our conversations and talking about all the different goings on. My concern, also is, just like, and this tends to be an age stratification thing where I feel like people don't know about meetings, they don't know about organizing going on, political organizing. Well, can you see the event on Facebook or whatever? And they didn't. And they didn't know about it. They didn't know there was a meeting. And so as a political organizer, I've been to
in the past, I've been to Netroots Nations conferences, which is all about internet roots and how to do political organizing on these different sites, you know, whether it be Instagram or Facebook or whatever. So Netroots Nations is really all about, you know, because nobody's reading the newspaper anymore, you know, I always, you know, religiously, you know, that's like, you know, but nobody reads the newspaper, so how are people getting information? And we did, you know, with Trump winning, that's how he won, with these podcasts with, what was his name, Josh Rogan or Joe Rogan? Joe Rogan, yeah. And, so I'm just making some comments there. The other thing, I've actually taken some data science and I know there can be errors, with facial recognition too, especially on smaller data sets. In a smaller data set, you know, we still do have kind of a white America still for a while longer. And, you know, so when you're in the minority group, then there's not as much data and the models might not be trained as well as accurate. So just making a comment about that. But, I don't know if the US is turning towards anything like GDPR that they have in Europe, or if the US is going to not do that, but I know some of the companies, I actually have worked in data security myself, database administrator, but anyway, GDPR, is in Europe, and so some of the bigger companies follow GDPR anyway, because Europe requires it. So my understanding of GDPR, which is probably huge, and, you know, I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding is if Facebook is gonna sell my data to another company, like, for example, say I like dancing and they try to sell me dancing shoes, and they're gonna give that, my information to the dancing company and make money off of it, then I would have to hit, I consent, you know, to do that for GDPR. And the US does not have GDPR, as my understanding is that has not moved to GDPR. So I don't know if you have any comments on any of the stuff that I'm commenting on, so.
And I'm gonna hang out near Doug, 'cause I think he's gonna have a better answer than me on the tools and technologies for organizing and activism. So yes, can confirm, you know, at least in the data science space, that a lot of our models are being trained with a great deal of biases in them. So things like facial recognition they work worse for you know, non-white skinned people, and that has even additional knock-on effects, right? When that kind of technology is being used in law enforcement, where a suspect might, you know, have brown skin. The classification and the confidence that comes out of those tools can be way off base, and lead to even more, you know, false arrests and things like that. In terms of like national and federal legislation, no, I'm not aware of anything similar to the EU's GDPR on its way to the US. But like I said, we do have a couple states like California and Colorado that are leading the charge, and making sure that at least at the state level, there is more sufficient consumer data privacy protections. Something that California rolled out last year and is effective as of January 1 this year. An example that I gave before was there are some online services that will, you know, you say, I want to delete all my data on all of these data brokers. This is now a citizen tool for Californians. It's a website called Drop, and it's run by the state of California. And so you can, if you're a citizen of California, you go to Drop's website and you can say, hey, all the data brokers that work in California, go please delete all of my information on all of those data brokers. And it gets farmed out from one place. You don't have to sign up for a service. You don't have to pay money to anybody. You don't have to follow up on all the different companies. And so that's an example of where California has been leading the way for regulation and citizen protections similar to the EU's GDPR. And then in terms of like selecting tools for political activism and messaging, I would say that, you know, all of these same tools are just as effective for those cases, but it's less about the tool and the technology that you're using, even if it has more privacy baked into it. What you're more concerned about, in my opinion, is making sure that you know who is part of the messaging network. So if I create a Signal group and I put the link to the Signal group on the public internet and people just start coming on in, I don't know who they are. So even though the tool is both secure and private, if I don't know who is in the group, then, you know, I could be talking to someone who's just trying to study, you know, where I'm gonna be and where I'm going and what I'm all about. So it becomes even more important in a private and secure tool choice that you know who is on the other end of the line. Yeah, Doug, anything to add on what the activism side?
There is a listing of conversation of copies with the main organizers, the young women, the 3 young women that are leading the fracking.
Right.
Ballot initiative.
Well, I can offer a couple of things. So, one thing I would suggest is, yes, when you do start to unplug from the common social media and things that we know in your terms of services are open to, say, an overreaching government or something like that, you start to move towards things like Signal that we talked about today. Signal can communicate all those messages, you know, it's a rain day, we're not gonna protest today, or some, you know, other that you could send, you know, links and things like that, like you would with other tools. But it is important to remember the people that don't do social media. I don't myself, I avoid the algorithm at all costs. It's valuable to remember that you need to speak to each audience where they're at. At the same time, there are audiences that aren't on Signal yet. We have to be able to reach out further than just the people that are already on board with privacy. And so it's often important to remember that, you know, we wear more than one hat. You can put your privacy hat on and work with your group that's doing things that are more sensitive and more delicate, or maybe protecting immigrants and things like that, people that are vulnerable. And then you can take it off and you can do something that's, you know, much more open and promotional. You know, outreach on Discord, where, you know, we know everybody can watch what you're seeing on Discord, or text messages, emails, so on. All those things, and just, you know, just know who your audience is, as he says, but also include that terms of service, because that terms of service says the government has the request, or has the right to request your data for lawful purposes in many of those cases. And just a quick show of hands, how many people here actually read the last privacy policy you were asked about too? So, anybody? Okay, we got actually 2. I see 2. That's impressive. It's terrifying. Okay. Read Indivisibles. It's incredible. Some of the things that are in some of the most precious places in our hearts, you gotta know what's happening. So mind your audience, know that we need to play at all those different places to be effective, because we gotta reach those people to make that vote count, to get out there. But at the same time, know that, you know, there are certain places to have certain conversations, and you just change modes. You don't have the same profile picture on Signal. You don't have the same name as on, you know, on Twitter. You change it, make it very different, so you can't be associated with your other hat, your other person.
So I'm just looking at the clock. I think we'll wrap it up there. But yeah, if you have any more questions, happy to take them. Let's have a conversation over a cupcake. And then one more time, anybody from CDF who's open to answering additional questions? Yep, so let's see you get. All right, who can I turn this back over to?
I'm
All
gonna.
right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was really informative. I do want to, after the meeting, as we're eating cupcakes, talk about flock campers and what we can do about that.
Okay.
So, again, my name is Julie. Thank you everyone for coming. A reminder, our next meeting is September 12th. It will be here at 3 to 4:30, ballot initiatives, correct? And I think you said October 3rd was going to be our following meeting, place to be determined. And it will be candidate forum. So those 2 next meetings are big, and we really want to encourage everybody to come.
And become a voting member. That way you
Yes.
can vote on the ballot initiatives.
So if you don't know if you're a voting member, hit one of us up, we can check, and you want to be able to vote on candidates and ballot initiatives, get to have your voice heard. Okay, we're gonna wrap up. Please have some cupcakes. We're gonna be packing up chairs, but feel free to sit around and chat for a while. Thank you.